People who owned hamsters, what's the weirdest way they died? This wasn't mine, but a buddy of mine. His hamster absolutely hated his dog. All it would do is eat, sleep, growl at the dog, exercise, and try to tear a hole in the cage. Over and over. It wanted a piece of that dog. Bad. Eventually it got jacked, like I did not think hamsters were capable of. This thing looked like a tiny pit bull or something. One day its muscles got big enough, or the cage weakened enough, or something. It got out and apparently got the glorious battle to the death that it always wanted. No one was there to see it happen, but the aftermath was not pretty. I was little and put the hamster in my huge dollhouse. It was very cute seeing her in there. Not as cute when she ate little pieces of decoration and choked to death. 2. A hamster affectionately known as Squeaky due to his little squeaks when he was held and gently squozed. Well, friend's little brother wanted to hear him squeak. He fucking crushed him. I'm his first. 3. Not a hamster but my friend's chinchilla. It was allowed to free roam in the house. Kids were playing tag and didn't see Chinchilla on the ground until they felt the crunch of his spine under their feet. Hamster 1 wasn't even ours. The child brought it in for a classroom pet. Parents didn't even pay for anything the entire year. And then they screwed off to Africa so we couldn't give it back. One of middle sisters put it in a small plastic ball and let it run outside. It got stuck in the mud and was left out there for hours in 90-degree weather. Hamster 2 was bought to replace it, and it got out. We searched everywhere but assumed it was probably dead somewhere. Oh, it was dead all right. Behind the TV. It had chewed on the wires and electrocuted itself. I was 11-12 and I can't remember his name, sorry buddy. He was a mean little nugget. He went after your hand any time you put your hand in the cage, and if he got a hold of you he would not let go. One morning I was prepping to feed him, and he didn't come charging out of his cubby. I searched around in his cage and found him unalive under the shavings with his face wedged into one of the corners. I felt so bad I couldn't handle him, and Mum didn't want to touch him, so he made my brother bury him when he came to do laundry. Seemed a fair trade-off. When I was 8, my parents took me to one of those drive-through safari parks, where they give you a bunch of tiny feed pellets for the animals. My dad told me to feed the leftovers to my hamster. Well, the next morning I found my hamster sleeping funny. I laughed and went outside to play. I came back in later, and my dad broke it to me that my hamster wasn't sleeping, she was dead. I had an absolute meltdown. I ran around the neighborhood knocking on my neighbors' doors telling them my dad killed my hamster, ruining everyone's Thanksgiving Sunday. My first ever hamster, my first pet that was my own, was killed by our cat. The cat knocked the cage of the little stand I had it on, which made it pop open. I woke up to the sound to see the cat running off with my hamster in its mouth. Years later, another hamster I had babies. It ate some of them. Now I didn't see this, but my mum tells me a couple of the babies were decapitated on the hamster wheel. I guess they stuck their head in the bars while others were still running. I remember her yelling at me not to look, and I'm glad I didn't. My parents got me a hamster when I was about 6 or 7 years old. The cage door was left open one day, and she somehow got into the vents and unfortunately died in there. I still remember the smell in the house. It lasted for days. I also remember having an anxiety or panic attack because I wanted my parents to get her, but obviously it was too late by that point. My first time experiencing death, and I cried about it for so long. My poor child self was traumatized. Her name was Chip. I have pet rats now, and I triple-check the doors every time. My mum put my hamster in her freedom ball while I was at my dad's house and forgot about her. She rolled into the garage on a hot summer day and couldn't get back inside because there was a step she had to roll down to get out. Mum closed said garage door, trapping hamster in basically an oven, and found her dead later. Then she put said hamster's body in the freezer in case I wanted to bury her, but forgot about her again. Imagine my surprise as a 9-year latchkey kid opening the freezer to get some ice and finding a hamstersicle. My brother had 2 dwarf hamsters growing up. Both awful endings. 1. My mum let the first hamster run around in his exercise ball in the backyard. She forgot about him and he got stuck in one of the cracks in our walkway in the sun and basically fried to death. 2. Parents got him another one shortly after the first one died. Found him drowned in his water bowl when we got home from school. He also had two parakeets and a gecko that met unfortunate endings. Not by anyone's doing, just very unfortunate circumstances. I got a hamster wheel car for Christmas when I was 10. I put the hamster in and took him to the hallway where there was tile, but he wouldn't run and make the car go. He just wasn't feeling it, but my mum wanted to see the car go. So she used her foot to propel him hard. Centrifugal force plastered him to the wheel wall like a county fair death trap, and the car barreled down the hall and hit the bathroom door. At first we thought Teddy was just stunned, but he was dead on Christmas morning, with my mother to blame. We've had some hamster. Luckily most of them died in pretty normal ways. Oldness, sickness, sad way, but pretty natural, etc. A couple of our hamsters were killed by bugs or fleas. The only weird one is, when one of the hamsters had just had children, I was looking at her and her kids. They went to the nest and half of the kids never got out of the nest. I told everyone she ate her own kids and nitrogen monoxide. One believed me. After all these years I'm still confused if that was true or not, but damn. Traumatizing. My cousin had one named Hamish that he kept in a cage across the room from his aquarium that had 3 piranhas. One day Hamish managed to get out of his cage and into the aquarium. He managed to take a bite out of one before dying either by drowning or attacked by the piranhas. Probably both. It was a mess, so my cousin just took the aquarium outside and dumped it in the sewer. It is now a neighborhood urban legend that the 2 remaining piranhas are still alive in the sewer and the size of sharks. My sister wanted to teach the hamster to swim apparently, so she filled the kitchen sink up and plopped it in there. At some point she got bored and drained the water, and the hamster went down into the garbage disposal. She didn't want to tell anyone, so she just left it in there. We found out later when she came to my mum crying that the hamster was gone because it fell into the sink. My mum of course cooked dinner that night, which included chopping up vegetables. R.I.P. Pinky. It isn't weird, but it's become legend in my family. We had Sniffles outside in his ball, enjoying the sweet summer day. My sister yelled outside to tell me the Backstreet Boys were on TRL. I ran inside, leaving Sniffles outside by mistake. I came back outside a bit later, and it turns out the plastic ball in the sun probably gets pretty hot, and sweet Sniffles was dead. I also buried him in a shallow grave and something dug him up a couple days later. Sorry, Sniffles. I'm still traumatized 52 years later. Our classroom had a class pet, the hamster. If you finished your class work first, you were allowed to take it from the cage and play with it. I had a cardboard insert from a roll of paper towel and a desk with a lid that lifted up so you could store your books inside. I really don't know how it happened, but the lid slammed down on the hamster. I murdered the class pet in front of about 35-year-olds. We rented the top half of a farmhouse for a year. My hamster was in a cage on top of a bookcase. Our huge dog had a mat on the floor at the foot of the bookcase. This dog's sole purpose in life was to get that hamster on night. He escaped from his cage and presumably landed right on, or very close to said oblivious dog. Then he navigated through the apartment, down the stairs and into our landlady's apartment, where her dog murdered him. Okay, no word of a lie. My brother had a hamster when we were younger. I was quite young, under 5Y, and snuck dear Hammy out of his cage while no one was around and tried feeding him. Mum ended up walking in on me and a dead Hammy. I had ended up strangling the poor fella when I was trying to force seeds into his mouth. She bought another hamster, and my brother was none the wiser until she informed us what happened when we were a bit older. My brother had 2 and we were sharing a room at the time. He had taken one out of the cage to put into the ball it can roll around on the floor in, but didn't seal the lid all the way, and then got distracted by something and left the room. I came up and started to play music on my boombox, and somehow the little fucker got up on the dresser and was right near the speaker. We think forgot about Dre being on blast, gave him a heart attack. First hamster. We simply moved his cage while we were cleaning. Dead. Second and last hamster. Cat knocked his cage over. Little shit escaped. Cat chased, then got bored. This hamster lived for at least 6 months in our house. We'd see him from time to time, and would find the food and water left out for him eaten. The cats left him alone. Don't know where he went, but he likely died somewhere under an appliance or something. I don't actually know if she died, but I had one manage to escape one of those cheap modular starter cages. The cage was on a half wall that divided my living room and kitchen and was like 4 feet high. I looked across every square inch of the house and never found her. I assume she somehow survived the fall and then climbed into the AC pipes. That was the only possible place besides falling down the damn zinc drain. I dunno about die, but we had a hamster that escaped regularly. One time we caught him, and he was missing a foot. The next time we caught him, he was missing an eye. When I cleaned out his cage at the age of 2.5 or so, I found marbles and acorns. He had to have gone outdoors to get acorns, and he chose to come back to the cage. I could never find how he escaped. We had 2 boxes and 3 cats. It's a damn miracle. They weren't mine. That my little sister's. The female hated the male who was so sweet. She would attack him occasionally, but she still mated with him anyway at some point. Some time after she gave birth, she and her children devoured the male. There was literally nothing left of him after that. She attacked her kids, and they were attacking each other. It happened so quickly, too.